What is up, everybody? It's DefCon back for another video, and today we're actually be playing something pretty cool. There is a Lopunny Dusknoir that's been floating around. It actually reminds me a lot of the old Galapagos Dusknoir deck, and I was a huge fan of that deck. Played a couple regionals, got a couple day twos with it. So the main star of the show here is going to be Mega Lopunny EX, which has the attack Gale Thrust, does 60 damage, and then does 170 more damage if Mega Lopunny moved from the bench to the active this turn. Now, this is very much like the old Gliscopod GX or the Urshifu VMAX, where you get that added bonus of damage if you go from the bench to the active. And there's a lot of switching cards currently in Standard, so it's a pretty easy attack to get into. And the second attack, Spiky Hopper, is going to be 160, and then it's basically Shred, right? It ignores all of the effects on your opponent's active. So this is really cool because now Mega Lopunny is able to hit through things like Cornerstone Ogerpon. One, it doesn't have an ability already, but let's say it did have an ability, you could hit through that. And then something like Crustle that says that you can't be hit by EX Pokemon. This is going to slap through that as well. So pretty efficient attacker, a 1 energy and a 2 energy to attack, 1 retreat, pretty good HP is in 330. Fighting isn't super relevant outside of Mega Lucario, which is not really played that much. You almost really never have to worry about weakness. And then obviously Solrock doesn't do any weakness, so you have that to play around with. Your Lopunny is pretty much always going to live a hit unless you play against something like Dango. And the really coolest thing is you get to play this thing with the bombs. So the Dusclops, Duskull, and Dusknoir all have this added utility to the deck where you can use Cursed Blast to put damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. So you can either like just trade a prize card for a prize card by using your Dusknoir to blow up one of their Pokemon. You can think of stuff like Dreepy, Dracloak, Curlia, Ralts, and then it's going to hurt your opponent's ability to set up. And then because your Lopunny is such an efficient attacker, you can kind of just try to pick apart their board. And if you look at the deck, it's pretty much an almost all normal deck. There's nothing you're going to be attacking within this deck that isn't a normal type. I mean, there's going to be the rare game where maybe we have to attack with Pheasantipity, but we really don't want to. And some of the other additions to the deck is we have the Pidgey and the Pidgeot. A lot of lists I've seen have been playing a 101 Pidgeot, but I've elected to add a second copy of Pidgey, just because that Call for Family attack is really good with this deck, because it's able to kind of get some of the guys that you can't get with Poffin. So you do have the Pheasantipity EX, you have the Kangaskhan. I've seen some builds also play the Ditto. I wasn't a huge fan of the Ditto in the deck when I was doing some test games with it, but I'm sure Ditto is also fine if you'd like to play that. So the thing also with the Pidgey is that when you use that Call for Family attack, you're basically saying, here's my 50 HP Pidgey, just kill it. So having your Pidgey be able to get another Pidgey is really nice, so that when your first one goes down, your second one can still evolve into Pidgeot, because it's a huge part of the engine of this deck. And then, for some backup attackers, we have the Fan Rotom. So Fan Rotom is pretty cool because you can search your Pidgey and your Baneri if needed. But a lot of the times, I felt it was really inefficient to attack with your Lopunny into a Psyduck to knock it out if you aren't able to get into Klefki. Or just a turn 1 pressure of putting down Fan Rotom is really good in this deck. A lot of the times, other decks will need to play a Stadium to play the game. Like, they have to put down a Mesagoza to do stuff, or Guardy will play down the Mysterious Guard to draw cards. So you can take advantage of that and use your Fan Rotom attack turn 1 for a knockout. And yeah, 70 damage is really good, because if we go to the energy section, for the energies, we are playing 4 copies of Jet Energy. So as long as you get the Fan Rotom into play, you can Jet Energy to the active and then take a knockout. So we also have the, Blood Moon or Luna, the, little utility knife over here. End of the game, we can smack for basically free or 1 energy card is our goal. And then, yeah, we have the Mega Kangaskhan EX. This card's going to help us draw, so during our turn, we can, our opponent takes a knockout, we promote Mega Kangaskhan, draw 2 off Kangaskhan, draw 3 off of the Pheasantipity, and then we can Jet Energy Lopunny back into the active, and then take a knockout that way, which is really nice. And yeah, it's going to help us just kind of keep a hand, because this deck doesn't play a lot of draw cards as you see in the Pokemon lineup. There's nothing really to kind of generate us a hand advantage aside from the the Pidgeot EX, and then potentially if we Dusknoir our opponent's Pokemon, we can take a prize card and then it nets us another card. Looking at the trainers, it's going to be pretty much like the old Terrapagos deck as far as the trainers go. If we look at it, we're going to have a couple copies of Rare Candy, couple switching cards. We have 2 hard switch, because I did also like the idea of Kieran in this deck. So now what Kieran is going to help you out with is our Lopunny. After it moves to the active, does 230 damage, and it's kind of an awkward number because you do knock out a lot of 220, 200 HP EXs, but when you get to bigger things like Raging Bolt or like Goldango, that extra 30 damage is actually going to matter a lot to be able to knock out your opponent's active. And also in combination with that, Kieran is also a switching card. So if you need to just get a switching effect, you can also use it for that. You don't have to commit to one of the effects if you wanted to, not play the Black Belt, which is going to make you do plus 40 damage. This one does a little bit less, but also has that additional effect. And then one of the MVPs of the deck is going to be Hilda. So Hilda's going to get us an evolution and an energy card. And those two cards are going to be huge in our combination of getting either a copy of Lopunny, a copy of Dusknoir, or a copy of Pidgeot to be able to evolve our basic Pokemon and then search for a copy of Jet Energy. We also have one copy of Miss Energy in here as well. A lot of the times you just kind of want an extra energy to just attack with, so I elected to use Miss because I thought it was the best energy because we can also use it just to attach to our Pidgeot. So we don't have any Pidgeotos in this deck, so if we do get Devo TM, then it might be difficult to find a rare candy after a potential Iono, so having that Miss Energy on Pidgeot is just going to prevent from any of those added effects happening. Also, if you needed to, you could Jet Energy a Lopunny to the active, use Gale Thrust on the next turn, Quick Search or Hilda for the Miss Energy attached to Lopunny, and then use Spiky Hoppers, so it's going to protect your Lopunny, which has a ton of HP. All right, and we're just going to get some games in with this deck. I think and we're going to make our opponent go first. I want to be able to get that supporter card to get some additional setup. I want to see the most cards possible. Okay, so we do lead Pidgey. This is what I'm talking about. If you do get the Pidgey down, it's really nice just to be able to get those additional basics down. And let's see, our opponent's going to also flip over a Duskull, so this could be a couple different decks. Could be Charizard, could be Dragapult. If we get really lucky, maybe we can top deck something like a Nest Ball and then get Fan Rotom and use that Jet Energy to attach to Fan Rotom, and then boom, take a knockout on this Duskull. That'd be pretty cool. I've tried a couple other little attackers here in this deck. I know Bidoof has been in some builds, which just seems cool. I actually were playing the mirror match. And yeah, I've seen this Baneri pop up. I wish this said 30 less, because then you'd have a little bit better of a matchup into Yveltal things, because they Yveltal you, and then you go Charm, and then the Yveltal does 0 damage the next turn, which is pretty funny. See a transformative start here. More than likely, this is going to get that Kangaskhan, yep, to be able to draw some cards here. And we'll see a Run Aaron, most likely. Yep, our opponent 2 more cards. And on our turn, we're probably just looking to use this Jet Energy on the Pidgey to use Call for Family. After using the Lily's Determination, I definitely want to try to get as many basics down as possible this turn. Our opponent had a pretty strong start. And yeah, we're just drawing a bunch. It's crazy to open 3 of our 5 energy. Go for the Liz Determination, hoping for some Buddy Poffins here. All right, we get the Fan Rotom and the Mega Kangaskhan. I'm going to go for the Buddy Poffin here. Take a look at the deck. We have Klefki, Pidgey, Duskull, Baneri. So part of me also wants to grab this Klefki, because if we can retreat into Klefki, then it's going to turn off Mega Kangaskhan and Latias. It's going to force our opponent to want to knock out that Klefki, and it'll let me keep this Pidgey into play. Another thing I could do is retreat into Kangaskhan, because there's almost no way our opponent's going to be able to knock it out unless they get a pretty strong turn with these Duskulls here. But since I do have the Hilda, for next turn I can get that Lopunny. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to get Cleffa, and I'm going to get Baneri. Or not Cleffa, Klefki. Get Klefki and Baneri. I'll retreat my Pidgey into this copy of Klefki, and then I'm going to Nest Ball and get a copy of... See, okay, I'm torn here because I could get a second copy of Baneri. Then that way, if my opponent does have Rare Candy Dusknoir, I still have an attack next turn. Then I'm actually going to do that. I think I'm going to forego getting the Duskull on this turn. And I don't want to commit the Fan Rotom just yet. Let's see. If my opponent does get the Dusknoir pop on this Klefki, it might be a good idea to just preemptively bench this Mega Kangaskhan. So if they do knock it out, I can promote this. It can take a hit, and then I can Turo it up later. So after that, I'm just going to pass it over to my opponent, and I'm going to hope their hand's not super strong here. One, they're not going to be able to move this Kangaskhan because Mischievous Lock is going to turn off Latias' ability Skyliner, which basically says that Kangaskhan has no retreat cost. So hopefully this Kangaskhan will sit here for a turn. If not, my opponent has to have a copy of Hilda as well. But that's nice for me because then I get to swing my 3-prizer to my opponent's 3-prizer, and they're using a 3-prizer to kill a 1-prizer. So that's a pretty good trade for me. So see the Ultra Ball on our opponent's side, see what they want to discard, see how bad they're hurting over here. Yeah, not being able to draw those 2 cards off Kangaskhan is pretty huge. Oh, we see a Boss's Order go away, which is interesting because now if my opponent really wanted to, they could have bossed up something here to be able to get out of the Mischievous Lock, unless they do have 2 copies of it. Well, we'll see right now if my opponent has 2 copies of Boss. So they already had the Jet Energy in hand. So yeah, it definitely is an interesting play here to not want to Boss's Order maybe the Pidgey. Because now, on my turn, I'm going to get access to the Run Errand, and I'm going to be able to smack into this Lopunny. So, and also, I do get the Buddy Poffin off the top here. So Buddy Poffin's going to allow me to grab those 2 copies of Duskull. And then, if I'm really lucky here, I can use this Run Errand and hopefully draw a copy of Rare Candy. I unfortunately don't get Rare Candy, but I can still use this Hilda to grab some guys out of the deck. So I can grab that Lopunny, grab a copy of Jet Energy, and then I can evolve both of my Beneries into Lopunnies here. Unfortunately, if my opponent does get a Dusclops, they can Dusclops my Pidgey. But I think I'm fine with that because it looks like my prize map is going to be something like 2-hit KO this Lopunny, and then, or I can use Rare Candy Duskull to knock out Lopunny, and then if my opponent uses a Duskull, I can Prime Catcher Latias for the knockout. So I'm just going to Jet Energy this Lopunny to the active spot, and then use that copy of, or use the attack, Gale Thrust, and boom, hit my opponent for 230, leaving with 100 left. So even if they did randomly play something like Monkey Dory to heal themselves 30 damage, I still would be able to knock it out with the Dusknoir. And we see the Rare Candy for the Dusknoir, so yeah, I'm glad there that I definitely grabbed the Lopunny out of the deck to evolve a second copy, because then if my opponent went like Dusknoir, knock this out, or Dusknoir and then had another copy of Jet Energy to knock out this Lopunny, then it would be a little bit awkward to get an attacker for next turn. Let's see, looks like our opponent's probably just going to go for the knockout here into Lopunny, because we'll see them, they use the regular switch to switch back into Kangaskhan, draw 2 cards, and they can retreat back into Lopunny, and then probably use the Dusknoir onto the copy of Lopunny. And we see another copy of Beneary. So as long as I don't bench another 2-prizer, I might be okay here. Or bench a single 2-prizer. That way I force my opponent to have another copy of Rare Candy and Dusknoir. To see a Jet Energy and a Lopunny, our opponent's just preemptively grabbing that for the following turn. Unfortunately, I can't take a 6-prize turn on this following turn if my opponent does want to use this Dusknoir. Actually, could I? Okay, so if my opponent uses Dusknoir, puts 130 on Lopunny, yeah, so that's what they're going to do. I can go to 5 prizes. So technically, I guess if I do find Rare Candy Dusknoir, and then use that to pop the Lopunny and then Prime Catcher Latias, I can technically win next turn. And I do get a Rare Candy off the prizes. So after my opponent takes the knockout on my Lopunny, I can promote my Mega Kangaskhan, and then if I am able to draw either like Pidgeot or Prime Catcher, then I would be in a pretty good spot. There's also maybe drawing like Pheasantipity to be able to draw some more cards. But yeah, unfortunately I don't have any of those cards in hand right now, but there is a small chance I can win the game this turn. I just have to get a little bit lucky, I think. So I'm going to promote Kangaskhan, so I'm going to draw the top 3 cards of my deck, get my draw for turn. Copy of Boss's Order. That could come in handy, because if I'm able to get Dusknoir here now, I do win. So now I can run Aaron. So looking for Ultra Ball or Dusknoir. I get a copy of Rare Candy. It's not going to do too much here, unfortunately. And let's see. So that's actually pretty unfortunate for me. Not getting an Ultra Ball there is pretty rough, at least, because I really wanted to try and evolve one of these guys. Let's see. So my discard pile is just Klefki, Lopunny, Beneary, and the chances of me trapping something are pretty low in a deck like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Jet Energy this Lopunny to the active spot. Pretty unfortunate on my end. Now if my opponent finds a Dusclops, it's just game, which is pretty likely. So let me see. I think my best play here is the boss's order and kill Duskull, which doesn't feel super great. But I think if I don't, there's a good chance I mean, I could also Turo Pidgey and make my opponent find Dusknoir, which is also pretty good. So I think that's fine as well. Yeah, go for the Turo on the Pidgey. That way, if my opponent is gonna need Dusknoir on this turn to win, which I think is gonna be a little bit harder for him now that my opponent's they've already used one candy and they've already used a Dusknoir. So I'm gonna make them find the most amount of cards possible to win. There is a pretty low chance we win this game, but you have to play to your outs, and man, we just still have not seen a Dusknoir or Pidgeot. That's pretty unfortunate. Let's see. My opponent has the top, 9 cards of their deck, or their 7 cards in hand. Draw 2 off of the Mega Kangaskhan. So we see the Lopunny go down there, and the Enriching Energy to draw 4. Oof. So our opponent's actually going to be able to see a ton of cards here. So there's actually a pretty good chance that they do hit the combo. Most of the decks play either 2 to 3 copies of Dusknoir and then like 3 to 4 copies of Rare Candy, depending or not if they're playing that Pidgeot. So we'll see. If not, we have game next turn. Okay, see another evolution of Lopunny. So to me, it looks like they don't have it just yet. They still do have the Run Errand draw. That's 2 draws off the Run Errand. Yep, and there's the Rare Candy Dusknoir. That's unfortunate for us. We were pretty close here, actually, to piecing it together, but not being able to get a Pidgeot or Dusknoir for the whole game was pretty rough. That's not super common to not get any of those. We dug through a pretty decent amount of cards, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, plus 11. So we dug through about half of our deck to no ball cards, so we'll see. Maybe our opponent misclicks and they promote the wrong Lopunny. That's always a possibility, right? And we get a Buddy Poffin. Oh my god. I think we're just allergic to getting evolutions, man. What's going on here? Yep, and there's going to be the Gale Thrust for knockouts. So, pretty close game. I think we get a little bit lucky. We win. We had a bunch of different ways to win the game, especially drawing the boss's order. But, yeah, unfortunate one. We'll go to the next one, though. Be able to get some more games in here. I do think the upside about this deck too is that if you're able to kind of like play a couple turns ahead in your mind, then you can set up for like these really big combo turns. Like if I were to take that turn like the ideal way and I'm able to draw like one of the evolution cards, then I can take a 5-price turn there, which is pretty gross. I know that the Dusknoir decks have a pretty well established history of doing stuff like that, but just being able to do it in practice is really nasty. So make my opponent go first. See what we get here in our opening hand. Okay, led the Blood Moon Ursaluna with a pretty poor hand. More than likely we're playing against Charizard here. They have the Charmander sleeve. Actually, we're playing against Ethan's Typhlosion, which might not be great either. So let's see. I think our play is just going to be to Lily's Determination, all these cards back into the deck and try to draw a new hand. Ooh, our opponent gets a pretty nasty opening here with the Tatsugiri lead plus the double Buddy Poffin. So let's see. What do they get off the Tatsugiri? They get a copy of Arven. Okay, so they can potentially use that next turn to just kind of set up their board. All right, draw for turn, and it's a counter catcher. So okay, so because I don't want to redraw any of these cards, I think I'm just going to go for the Iono and put them all on the bottom and draw a fresh, brand new 6 cards. And we get no Pokemon. Okay, we're gonna scoop this one up. I don't think this one's worth playing, really. That's pretty unlucky, the top, like, 15 cards in the deck with no ball searches, so that's pretty unfortunate, because this, actually, compared to, like, old, like, kind of Terraboxy, like, Terapagos decks, this deck plays a ton of item search. We have the 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Buddy Poppin, and 2 Nest Ball. I think like the old Terabos like I used to play played like 4 Nest Ball, 1 Poppin, and like 3 Ultra Ball, 3 or 4. So we have a couple extra copies of the Buddy Poppin to kind of find all those basic Pokemon. So alright, let's see. We're gonna go second. We're winning these die rolls. We're just kind of hoping for a little bit of better draws here. So let's see. We get 7 cards. None of these are Pokemon, so we're going to ship this hand back. Looks like our opponent got a basic Pokemon. So let's see what we're going to get here. Ton of supporter cards. Alright, I'm going to pause until our opponent comes back or something. Alright, and we're back. Okay, so we get the Pidgey lead. And then I get these 2 skulls down as well. Just gonna plop those bad boys down. And then I do have the Jet Energy plus the Pheasantipity as a way to get some more cards here. Our hand doesn't have a lot going for it in the sense that we're missing kind of like a draw card. But, okay, I was gonna say, if our opponent does play a Spike Myth this turn, then I can use the Buddy Poppin to grab Fan Rotom for the 2 copies of Baniri, and then Jet Energy to Fan Rotom to be active and take a turn 1 knockout, which is looking like that's how it's going to go for us this turn. I imagine maybe the opponent is going to use Spike Myth Gym to search a copy of Morgrim. Yep, and there's a Spike Myth. If they search a Grimmsnarl, definitely not good news for us. Okay, that means they don't have Rare Candy in hand. So then our opponent's probably just going to go for the Filch here, draw a card. Actually, they don't even go for the Filch, which is interesting. Top deck Rare Candy might help if we're able to draw. Oh no, we prized the Fan Rotom. Okay, Fan Rotom prize, not super ideal here, but I can just go for the Call for Family here, and I'm gonna grab another copy. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab Kangaskhan, because I think we're gonna want to draw some cards next turn. Our hand's pretty poor outside of maybe this Rare Candy, so our opponent's gonna evolve into Morgrim here. On the following turn, I can retreat into Kangaskhan, and then if we're able to draw something like Rosa or Lily's Determination, I can get the turn 2 Lopunny attack out. Oh, but our opponent has the turn 2 Rare Candy Grimmsnarl, so I imagine they drew that Rare Candy for turn. Otherwise, they would have probably just evolved into double Morgrim here. Pretty unfortunate for us, because now our opponent's going to be able to get a ton of damage onto our board. They're going to do a knockout into Pidgey and then 30 damage onto probably one of our Duskulls. Because, okay, we see the Iono. Really good for us, actually, because our hand is pretty dead. So being able to get brand new 6 cards. Plus, we're going to get some draws off of this Mega Kangaskhan EX. Okay, and our opponents are drawn very, very well today. It's going to be pretty tough to get through this Grimmsnarl. We're going to need a lot of cards here. Our hand is not lending itself to a super good turn next turn. We do have the Professor Turo to pick up something later. Let's see. I'm able to draw a switch. So that's going to be okay if we can get something like the Mist Energy in the hand off of this instead of a Jet Energy. Let's see. I get Lily's Determination and the Dusknoir. Okay, so Buddy Poppin, thin this out of the deck. I don't think I want another copy of the Duskull. What I'm actually do is I'm going to fail that. And I want to Ultra Ball, get rid of Klefki. And I think Kieran is going to be not super great in this matchup, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. And grab a copy of Pheasantipity. So I'm going to draw 11 cards this turn. So I'm going to grab this Fez, and I'm going to use this Lily's Determination now. And draw 8 cards, and then 3 off of the Fez. And I'm looking for a Lopunny here with this current hand. Okay, no Lopunny yet, but we still have a chance. I can use this Rare Candy to evolve this Dusclops into Dusknoir and go for 130 damage into this benched Morgrim. And maybe off this prize card, I can rip a Lopunny or an Ultra Ball. That's what I'm hoping for here. Our opponent's taking a prize card, and we take our prize card. Let's go for number 1. We get a Jamming Tower, which honestly isn't the worst card to grab here. I'm going to turn off my opponent's Air Balloon, and you know, any potential other items they're going to want to use. But we're still down a prize, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to counter catcher up my opponent's Snow Runt, and then use this copy of Jamming Tower. I'm also going to evolve my Duskull into Dusclops, and then I will bench this Duskull as well. And I'm just kind of hoping my opponent's going to get stuck here for a turn. There's nothing I'm really able to do until next turn when I can play this Hilda. So if we look at our opponent, right, the average Marnie's deck, I want to say, plays like 6, 7, 8 energy, depending on the build. And our opponent's got 1, 4, 5, and their air balloon on this Grimmsnarl. So more than likely, they only have 1 to 2 energy left. And obviously, their copy of Balloon is down. I'd be very surprised if they played more than 1. Grimmsnarl also typically doesn't play switching cards. So yeah, this Arvin is going to have to grab a copy of... Yeah, let's gonna grab Secret Box, and then the Secret Box is probably going to have to grab something like Energy Switch or Energy Search to be able to get this Snow Runt out of the active. If my opponent had a 2 retreat cost Pokemon, I definitely would have brought that up as well. Let's see what my opponent is going to want to search here. They get rid of an Iono. So they're down 2 Ionos, which is nice for us. Okay, we don't see a switching card there, which is interesting. We see another copy of Spikemuth. This is probably going to get a copy of... Was the little guy Impidimp? Okay, actually, our opponent passes. So really nice for us, because that means our opponent doesn't have anything in hand that can currently get them to and out to Snow Runt. But I think if I'm able to get... Let's see. Okay, so I was looking for... Yeah, looking for Lopunny there, because then I would have been able to take a knockout onto this Grimmsnarl this turn. But I think I still can go for maybe like Dusknoir into Monkey Dory, and then... No, maybe I'll save the Dusknoir. But our opponent added a boss this last turn. What I'm going to do here is I think I'm just going to go for a setup turn here. So I'll go for Lopunny, and I'll grab Mist Energy. So I'll evolve the Lopunny here, and then I think what I'm going to do actually is just pass. Because I really want to just take the knockout on this Grimmsnarl. Nothing else on my opponent's board is really threatening to me at the moment. So I'm just going to pass here and hope that my opponent's top deck isn't the energy card. Which is interesting for my opponent, because I think if I was them, I would have maybe wanted to grab a cross border of Secret Box. And they play Lily's Determination. Did they add the Lily's? I swear they added a boss. Crazy. Okay, we see the Night Stretcher there for the energy. As long as... Okay, our opponent cannot pair with Counter Catcher because we're currently behind in prizes, which is really good. And this 180 damage on a Kangaskhan is going to pretty much mean nothing because we're taking a 1-hit KO onto Grimmsnarl. And then from there, we can pretty much just pick apart our opponent's board and kind of spawn trap the gimme goals as we go. Alright, so then 180 damage and then 30 onto the Fez. Little does our opponent know that we're just going to be able to blow up this Grimmsnarl this turn. So I'm going to go for the Cursed Blast onto this active Marnie's Grimmsnarl. Boom, take a prize, and then I will take a prize after I knock out this Grimmsnarl. So I'm going to thin out this Buddy Popping because more than likely we're not going to need it for the rest of the game. I don't think anything here is something that we're going to want to grab. So I'm going to take a look at this deck really quick. I do have a copy of Night Stretcher here. We have the Prime Catcher. So what I think I actually want to do is I'm going to use this copy of Night Stretcher, and I'm going to grab the Pidgey. So I'm going to probably need to just like spam bosses orders or Prime Catchers going into my following turn. So I'm going to re-bench this Pidgey, and then I can go for the Jet Energy. Or actually, I want to draw 2 cards first. So I kind of have to decide here, do I want to play Hilda to like keep my board going? Or I could play the Lily's Determination and then draw after. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 cards off Run Aaron. I think I'm just going to use the Lily. So I want to try to draw... Okay, I actually did get a copy of Rare Candy there. It's going to change my play a little bit. I'm going to use the Jet Energy. I'm still going to want to take the knockout into this Grimmsnarl. But then I'm going to use the Rosa preemptively here. And my opponent's down 2 copies of Iono. So the chances of them drawing an Iono off the Lilies, while not 0, is probably not super high. I'm going to slam this Jamming Tower into play also, and then go for the Gale Thrust, take the knockout onto my opponent's Grimmsnarl, And because I'm at 3 prizes, my opponent still is not able to attack with a Blood Moon Ursaluna. And then on this following turn, which is really nice as well, I can Rare Candy Pidgeot and then Pidgeot for Turo to Turo up this Kangaskhan. Because now my opponent's going to have a pretty rough time just finding outs to their Impidimps, because they have 3 Impidimps in the discard pile, and there's a pretty high chance that they only play those 3 copies. Yep, there's the Night Stretcher. The Night Stretcher is for sure going to grab a copy of Impidimp. Opponent played Arven, so they can't Iono us, so our next turn is going to look something like Rare Candy Pidgeot, and then attach Miss Energy to Pidgeot, and then switch into Pidgeot so that I'm able to get a attack off with this Mega Lopunny. Alternatively, we could just Prime Catcher the Impidimp and then Turo the Kangaskhan, which I also like because this Blood Moon is going to be threatening a 3 prize knockout onto here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the Rare Candy onto the Pidgeot, and then we'll take a look at the deck really quick. Go for the Quick Search. Quick Search to grab Professor Turo's Scenario. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch into the Kangaskhan, and he's going to draw me 2 cards before he gets out of here. Appreciate you, big dog. Draw Rare Candy Lopunny. That's pretty good as well. Able to evolve that Lopunny up. And then I'm going to use this copy of Professor Turo's Scenario to pick up Kangaskhan, and then we can just actually take the knockout onto the active. I think my play next turn is either just to knock out this Blood Moon, or I can take the knockout onto the Impidimp. And then I'm going to Miss Energy Pidgeot over here. That way my opponent isn't able to Devo TM it, because there's a pretty good chance our opponent does play that. And then aside from that, there's really nothing our opponent can do to take a 3 prize turn, even if they are able to go like Rare Candy Grimmsnarl, knockout Pheasantipity. My opponent also has maybe the play of like, now that we're ahead on the prizes, they can go Counter Catcher Pheasantipity, Iono knockout, which would be pretty good. It would put them to 1 prize. Well, it looks like here they're just going to try to attack with Ursaluna, which isn't super great, because if we're able to evolve into a copy of Dusclops, I can go, yeah, switch Dusclops and then take a knockout on Luna. But our opponent's probably just looking for energy here to attack with the Dusk, or with the Ursaluna. There's Night Stretcher. I think that was for Morgrim. Yep, evolve into Morgrim. And then we'll see if my opponent did get that energy card. Okay, so they do have the 240 damage onto the Lopunny. They're going to start getting those Frostlass pings into play here as well. But I think we just have this one locked up. On the next turn, I can Quick Search for Night Stretcher or a copy of Duskull, and then use Jet Energy to bring up this Lopunny and take the knockout onto Ursaluna for game. Yep. So then draw for turn. And then I'm just going to use this Ultra Ball to, before I use one of my effects that wins me the game, I'm just going to use an Ultra Ball, take a look at my deck, make sure that card's in there. And yep, I do have the Dusclops in the deck, so I can just evolve my Duskull into Dusclops, put 50 damage onto the Ursaluna here, because I only have 2 prizes left. This is going to go to 60 damage. So now my opponent only has 200 HP. Take a prize card, doesn't matter, buddy. And then I just slap this Jet Energy onto this bench copy of Mega Lopunny and take the knockout here. And boom. 230 plus 60 is going to be 290. And it's going to be more than enough to knock out this Blood Moon Ursaluna. Alright. So, pretty close game 1, and then game 2 is just like a brick, right? It happens, Pokemon. So, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get one more game, because I felt like we only really got to play like one real game. Because I felt the first game was like, kind of just didn't draw any evolutions, which is fine. It's Pokemon. Alright, let's go Funny Bunny. Let's see if we can end this video at a 500 record. But I think, yeah, your worst matchup is definitely Goldango, thinking of like the best decks in the game. I've been told it struggles with Guardy, but it's kind of like your same game plan of Dragapult, like I was saying earlier, where you kind of just want to wipe all their guys, and if you're able to do so, then, like, if your opponent never gets a Guardy into play, like, it's hard to lose, especially because all of their 2 prizes are going to die to Mega Lopunny's first attack. Aside from, you know, now we have the introduction of Diancie. Diancie's a little bit thicker, but it's 270 HP. It takes 30 less, it's basically 300. But so if you're able to combo with the first attack on the Lopunny plus a copy of Duskanor, you can knock out and take 3 prizes, which probably wins you the game. I haven't seen a lot of games where Diance's been knocked out that the Guardy player wins. Alright, and we see an End Zoroark here. I can't imagine this matchup is very good. Oh, we see a Torchic come down. Ooh, okay, so our opponent has a pretty good opening here. I do have the Ultra Ball to be able to get Fan Rotom. If our opponent plays a Stadium down... Oh, okay. Oh, but it's Rocket's Watchtower. No! Okay, that makes it a little bit worse here. Okay, so I can go for the Nest Ball. I want a Nest Ball to get this copy of Fan Rotom, actually, because I want to remove as many copies of Zorua as I can. So I'm going to go for Hilda here. Hilda's going to grab Lopunny and a Jet Energy. And then I do want to get a Baniri down, and I don't know if I really need either of these cards. So I'm going to get rid of Pidgeot and Kieran. I'm going to keep the Stretcher in hand because I can always Stretcher for the Pidgeot later. Get Baniri here. And then, yeah, I'm going to take my knockout onto this Zorua. This is a bit of a greedy play. But the only reason I'm doing this is because, one, my opponent doesn't have an energy on this Zorua. So now it's going to be a little bit harder for them to get into a Zoroark plus an energy, because more than likely they're going to have to promote the Zorua. They also only have 2 cards in hand, so I'm assuming one of them is a draw supporter. It's either a coin flip of Lilies or Iono. So if they Lily me, oh well, it is what it is. If they Iono me, I get a brand new hand anyway. So I'm willing to take this risk. Okay, so that's probably off the top. So we'll see what the last 2 cards on our opponent's hand are. Hoping for Iono here. And it's actually nothing. So we're actually able to take another knockout here, which is really nice. Again, another Baniri into play. And then, yeah, I'm just taking a knockout with another one with Fan Rotom here. So the Fan Rotom's taking 2 knockouts pretty early. It's pretty nice for us because Zoroark is definitely a deck I can see this deck struggling with. We do get Kangaskhan off the prize, but with that Rocket's Watchtower in play, can't really do much about it. Oh, it's definitely annoying. We see a Pecharunt, and our opponent doesn't use the ability to put into the active spot, which I think would have been pretty good because then it lives in attack. I'm going to evolve this. I probably should have done that last turn, but oh well. And then, yeah, just use Assault Landing, take another knockout on Zorua. Like, we'll take it, man. Free 3 knockouts. We're able to kill 3 Zoruas with Fan Rotom. We get another copy of Mega Lopunny off the prize, which is pretty good. I can evolve that bad boy. See our opponent draws for turn. Is it anything relevant? We see an Ultra Ball. This is probably going to grab Pheasantipity EX. Oh, it actually just grabbed Zoroark, which is interesting because our opponent doesn't have any cards in hand to trade away. So, okay, they put Zoroark into the active spot, but again, like, my opponent's can draw 1 card for turn and then trade that away, so it's not super great for them. Okay, so I get Rare Candy here. I'm going to put the Pidgeot into play, even though we can't use the ability, unfortunately. It'll be good, though, so if we're able to top deck out to Stadium, that'd be pretty good as well. Evolve into the second copy of Lopunny, and then I'm going to boss this order, knock out this Torchic. Let's see. 4th prize card with Fan Rotom. Oh my god. Get a copy of Buddy Poppin. So at least I can use that Buddy Poppin to thin out 2 copies of Duskull. Opponent trades away a fire, draws 2. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind if my opponent had an Iono here. Okay. Pretty good 2 cards for my opponent, though. Getting the copy of Hero's Cape and the Iono to refill their hand. There's a copy of Ends Darmanitan. Not super useful now that I kind of have all of my beefy guys out. Every one of my field is pretty high HP aside from the Fan Rotom. Also, I don't mind just hitting 70 into this Zoroark next turn because it pretty much just negates this Hero's Cape. Let's see. Hilda can grab me a copy of Jet Energy, which is pretty good. Let's see what I get. And I get an Ultra Ball. I don't think Ultra Ball is going to give anything super useful here, so I'm going to use Hilda. Grab a copy of Dusclops and Jet Energy. I'm just taking a look at the deck really quick. I don't think there's anything really here I can grab off of. Like, if I wanted to go for, like, Ultra Ball, Jet Energy into Pidgey, and then get 2 more Pokemon down, it's not going to do too much here. Kind of just hoping to rip a Draw Supporter or potentially one of these Jamming Powers to kind of turn my field back on. But, let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to wait till next turn to use this Ultra Ball to put down a copy of Dusclops, because then I can win the game the following turn with the Gale Thrust plus the Clops, I think, if my math is right. No, it'll be a little bit off, because this only does 280 with Clops plus Baneri, or with Lopunny, and my opponent has 300 HP left. The other thing is I didn't want to risk attacking with Lopunny into Zoroark, because obviously this hand is pretty dead, so if they get the Reshiram play off, then my opponent takes a 3-prize knockout, and I really don't have anything set up. So it's kind of rough. I guess maybe there's the argument you can, like, Gale Thrust into the active, the hit enemy, I can Ultra Ball for Fez, and then Fez into any energy card is game. So I could see the argument for that as well. But again, now if I just retreat and KO, the game's over. But it looks like maybe our opponent's going to have knockout here if they're going to commit that Subjugating Chains. This Arven, maybe he's going to get a copy of Earthen Vessel to be able to pump the Zoroark up. Yep, there's a copy of Earthen Vessel, and my opponent's out of cool cards. So that's good. Their Arven's going to be worth a little bit less going into these next couple turns if they play more than 1 copy. I know Liam's list was only 1, but this is obviously a different deck. This is the Blaziken deck, which is pretty cool. Gives you a little bit better matchup into Dango because you have a 2-prizer, ton of HP that kills Dango in 1 hit. Let's see, my opponent is going to have to use Backdraft if they want to attack here. And thankfully I didn't take a knockout last turn, so this Pheasantipede is not going to trigger. They're actually just going to pass. So maybe they're hoping to Iono me to 1 and then take a knockout that way. Let's see. I do want to put Pheasantipede into play this turn, but I also, because my opponent is going to use Backdraft next turn, I don't want to put down a low HP Pokemon now. So I think I'm going to do actually is I'm going to Ultra Ball and get rid of these 2 guys and use this to grab a copy of Pheasantipede. Yeah, I think this is good. Grab a copy of Fez, and then I'm just going to use the Fan Rotom Assault Landing to knock out my opponent's Zorua. Put them down to 1 prize. Assume what my opponent's game plan here is going to Iono me to 1 and start the run back. Get a Turo there off the prize. Not super useful, but if my opponent does use the Backdraft to knock me out, then I do get to draw 3 cards off Pheasantipede. So I'm okay if my opponent wants to, like, take a multi-prize turn. They're not able to do it this turn, but yeah, any 3 cards is, cards are cards. I have not seen a Draw Supporter yet, so, there's a pretty good chance I can draw something like Lilies or even my own Iono. My own Iono's not super strong here. My opponent actually just concedes. I think that game's actually pretty winnable for my opponent, considering they had the Watchtower in play, and maybe they were just like, oh, he's gonna have it off of Fez. But yeah, I think this deck is really cool. I think now that we have a new kind of archetype in the metagame, it's kind of cool, spices things up. I think this list could use a little bit more refinement. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty solid to what it is right now. I do really like the copy of Fan Rotom. I think like Klefki is probably needed, even though we never use it, just to be able to turn off opponent's ducks, because if your opponent has the Psyduck in their deck, your deck becomes a lot worse. Other things I've tried too is, the Stadium could kind of be anything, but I think it's your best one because your Goldango and Guardy matchups are poor. So being able to like Jamming Tower and kill a like overloaded Screamtail or overloaded Drifloon is really good. And then against Dango, they aren't able to retreat with Air Balloon, so it's going to give them a couple less cards, and that could be the difference between them knocking out your Lopunny or not, because they still need a lot of energy to knock out a Lopunny, even though it's possible. You want to make it as hard as possible for them. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I will leave the paste bin for this deck in the description as well. So appreciate you watching. Have a good one. Bye.